Alright guys, it's time for another video because I wanted to showcase this beauty I kind of developed and readjusted over the last couple of weeks, or the last 2 weeks rather. This is a turns list, so if you're tired of, you know, seeing the combo of Galvanic Iteration and Alrund's Epiphany in Standard, I know, I understand, I get it. I'm kind of tired of it myself, and I do believe nobody would miss Alrund's Epiphany if he got banned. But it needs to be said that generally, if you are an aggro deck and you don't get to finish your opponent by turn 8, you deserve to die. And there's plenty of win conditions in Standard for control decks right now. I think Alrund's Epiphany is still by far the best, and I do believe red is the best card, the best color to support Alrund's Epiphany at the moment, and I'm going to dive into it why that is still the case. So, as you can see, this is a build that also uses green, and it's only for 2 cards. One of them is Quandrix Apprentice, a card that when it got spoiled I was really hyped about. I wanted to make this card to be awesome. I tried to make it work in Standard, it does not work at all, or rather it used to not work at all. And I do believe it can be played in Legacy, but unfortunately there is no Legacy in Arena, so yeah. And the second card is Eureka Moment, and I'm going to talk about why I believe these are the correct additions to the deck. So what about this deck? This is a best of 3 deck, not a best of 1 deck. If it were a best of 1 deck, I would definitely include some kind of Wrath effects in the main deck. In best of 1 lists, I usually ran like 2 or 3 Cinderclasms and to burn down the house to combat the aggro decks, which there are plenty of in the format still. I do believe Mono White is by far the best of 1 deck on Arena at the moment. And this deck does not combat Mono White well pre-board at all. So we play it as a best of 3 deck, and we get to play all these kind of wrath and removal spells in the sideboard to adjust for the matchup. Alright, so let's dive into the list. What is this list designed to beat? I do believe Control is in a very good place in the metagame at the moment. I do believe Izzet is still very much a top tier deck, and so can Azorius and Dimir Control. They can definitely be a contender for the spot. So with that in mind, I want to talk about the current state of Control mirrors at the moment. So what's a Control mirror all about? This new card turned out to be quite the shake-up in the metagame for Control decks, because most of the Control decks these days don't run a ton of spot removal. The Azorius deck typically don't run any spot removal at all in the main deck. They run Doomscar as well as a ton of bounce spells, and they try to close out the game with Leer. So they can't deal with a Hullbreaker that's on the battlefield at all. And it gets quite stupid when both players actually play Hullbreaker Horror and they keep bouncing each other. So a lot about the control matchup is shaped around who gets to cast more spells, and the player with more land gets to cast more spells. So even in the Izzet mirror match, obviously a lot depends on the draw and on the amount of counter magic that is run and which draw spells are played. But typically in my experience, if one player starts stumbling and starts missing land drops, he has no way of coming back into the game. Windfall is a card that kind kind of allows to come back because it does produce treasure, so you get to cast your spells more freely because you have to still have the treasures up. But in the long run, you absolutely need to hit these land drops. It's all that control is about in the mirror match. So, in my opinion, Expressive Iteration is the best card in the control mirror by far. It might even be the best non-creature spell in the format right now, or at least arguably it's way up in the top. And this card solely is the main reason to play red, in my opinion. It's just the amount of card selection and value it provides, and you get to reliably hit your land drops is absurd. So even if I play this deck that is designed to kind of beat the control mirror, if I lose, it's usually because the opponent has like 2 or 3 expressive iterations in the first few turns, and then gets to snowball from there. But this card is very important. So how can we further improve our mana situation? Well, first of all, we're running a ton of lands. This is 25 lands already, plus we got Spikefield Hazard and Shatterskull Smashing for a total of 29 lands, so almost every second card in the deck is a land. So quite naturally we're going to hit these land drops. Now Quandrix Apprentice, which is only a 2-off, but the way it plays, that should be enough in my opinion. Quandrix Apprentice is kind of a guarantee that you never ever miss any land drops at all. Even if it gets removed, if you put like a Fading Hope or a Divide by Zero on the stack and bounce it back to your hand, you're already getting a ton of value. And I hopefully will be able to showcase you how that's going to work. And the second addition is Eureka Moment, which is, I'm not sure what the correct amount of Eureka Moment actually is. It might be 2, might be 4, I don't know. The issue with it is that it does actually cost 4 mana, and it can be divided by 0 and Jawari disrupted fairly easily. So you have to be careful about how to time it, when to play it. Ideally you want to pop off with a Galvanic Iteration and Eureka Moment in the end step of your opponent in the control mirror. So all of these cards together are designed to ramp you up. They do it slowly but steadily, and the way you win the game is by going off either with the combo Alrund's Epiphany or just a regular Epiphany on turn 6 and into Hullbreaker Horror. And if you're ahead on land and you get to play with a Hullbreaker Horror, you're just not going to lose the control mirror. It's that simple. So just by conceptually being able to be ahead in the land count in the control mirror, you are going to win the game with these cards in the deck. There's no question about it. So that's why the deck is designed to never miss any land drops and maybe even get ahead with Eureka Moment. So for the removal, I don't want to go too much into it because it's kind of a staple. We got Demon Bolts because I do believe it is a very good removal right now. Being able to hit for 4 instead of 3 is very important because of the Trolls and Azeka's Chariots and mono green. Some lists play 3/4 Wolf, which also gets hit by Demon Bolt, which is very nice. We have Spikefield Hazard, which is an amazing card for the deck, not only because it deals with many threats from the mono white deck, such as Talia, such as Luminarch Aspirant, such as Chapit Adversary on turn 2. And it actually exiles, so it even deals with cards like Skyclave. What's it called? Skyclave Shade? And it is also a land, so that's cute, but one of the most important aspects of the card is that it is a 1 mana instant, which allows us to trigger Quandrix Apprentice very easily. It allows us to trigger Hullbreaker Horror very easily to bounce a spell or a permanent. And the same goes for Demon Bolt, because you get to foretell it on turn 2, which is like the normal play pattern for the deck is to foretell on turn 2. You can play Quandrix Apprentice on turn 3 and get to Demon Bolt and hopefully get the land off to trigger immediately. So Demon Bolt and Spikefield Hazard are, in my opinion, the perfect removal spells for the deck, alongside, of course, 3 copies of Fading Hope, 3 copies of Divide by Zero with the typical lesson sideboard. And I'm not sure about these exact numbers. I think Wash Away is a very good counter. And I like it over Jwari Disruption because it is kind of a clean solution, kind of a permanent solution. And you get to sometimes cast it for 1 mana, and it's very good to copy with Galvanic Iteration as well. And just one Dissipate to really, have an even more permanent solution. But I'm not sure which counters are the right ones at the moment. These numbers can be tweaked and maybe replaced with some removal or another copy of Fading Hope, all depending on the metagame, of course. About Memory Deluge, I'm not entirely sure this is the right card for the deck, and what I actually think I'm going to try instead, or rather a split, is Behold the Multiverse, because I think it fits the deck a lot better due to the mana cost. Memory Deluge can be clunky the same way Eureka Moment can be clunky, and Behold the Multiverse is a very good card to exile on turn 2 as well if you don't have Demon Bolt or something along these lines. So I haven't tested Behold the Multiverse yet, but I wasn't always too happy with Memory Deluge. The flashback cost is so expensive that it usually is irrelevant unless you already have the Alrund's Epiphany combo. And I think Scry 2 and Drawing 2 is almost as good as Memory Deluge, especially if you get an Apprentice trigger as well from it. So, I don't know. I want to try this. I think it might be the better card than Memory Deluge, actually. And it does not get countered as often as Memory Deluge as well, so. One thing I would like to mention about the Quandrix Apprentice as well is that it allows you to play through your deck much more quickly. So if you start to chain Alrund's Epiphany, you don't immediately win on the spot. It's not like you have, Goldspan Dragon or Monogorger Dragon to fall back onto as a quick clock in this deck. So you actually have to keep playing the game even if you double time walk. But with Quandrix Apprentice, you get to thin out your library like seriously a lot. And with Divide by Zero or Cathartic Pyre, you can actually discard the land cards to draw cards. And with Quandrix Apprentice and all of these draw spells, you dig through your deck really fast. Expressive Iteration as well. So the more you thin out your deck, the better your draw gets once you start going into the late game, which is also a very, very big upside especially in the control matches. Alright, I think I've talked about all the cards we need to look at, and I save and exit. My plan is to showcase how the deck works in just a normal standard ranked game. You can see the image for the deck is a Quandrix Cultivator, I believe is the name of the card. It's a 4-mana 3/4 that ramps by searching up a land. I did originally play 3 copies of the card and just started reducing it because it does get countered by Jwari Disruptions so easily, and it's not the ideal play against many aggro decks either. Even though it does have reasonable stats, I don't think it is good enough. All right, let's hop onto the ladder. See if we can find ideally a control player to showcase what the Green Splash and the Quandrix Apprentice provides for the deck. By the way, I am Diamond. I believe this is tier 1, so we're almost at Mythic, and we got there almost exclusively by playing this deck. Opponent goes first. We have up to 3 removal spells and some draw. We're keeping this. So the way you want to play this is you want to play the tapped land first, not the Spikefield Hazard, because you want to be able to access all colors in the second turn. And this is mono red, which is more of a mid-range deck these days, which should be a fairly easy matchup, especially since we already have excellent removal spells ready. So I don't believe Spikefield Hazard is going to provide us with much, which means I should play this one as a land to make sure we get to 4 mana on the next turn, and we get to exile the second Demon Bolt. So our play pattern will be for the next turn either to Demon Bolt whatever threat they may provide. That is actually a perfect draw. Or go for the Eureka moment, but this makes things very easy. I do think I don't need the second red, so at least this turn, which means I'm going to put this in hand, this in library, this to exile, and I don't want to face any shenanigans, so I'm just going to use this in Vault right away. So if that's all he does, I am very confident that this will be a very swift and easy game. Goldspan was to be expected. Since he's not running any blue as far as I can tell, I'm not worried about this Goldspan at all. I think we very easily will be able to assemble Galvanic Iteration and Alrund's Epiphany way before this becomes an issue. So we're on 5, we get to divide, even if we foretell the Epiphany, but I don't get to play Moment. I could also go for Eureka Moment and Demon Bolt. I don't know which is better. I think we need to do this for the tempo play, and I definitely want to exile this at some point. It's close. Demon Bolt and Moment is also a tempo play. Yeah, I think I'm going for this, so let's actually wait to combat. Maybe we get to Galvanic Iteration and Demon Bolt if he plays another Goldspan. Using Galvanic Iteration to amplify your removal is an excellent way to keep up in a best of 1 situations. I love Galvanic Iteration. I think it's very much an undervalued card. So double Demon Bolt looks very tempting. I think I'm going to do just that. I could also double divide by 0, which is arguably better, because it uses the mana more effectively. Yeah, I think I should do that. Whoa, quick freeze. Yeah, I'm thinking. So I'm not used to talk and play at the same time, which might slow down my decision making slightly. I don't actually need any of these cards, so I'm just going to discard one of these. Another Eureka moment, that's fine. What is he doing? So I'm definitely not getting rid of a land, so I might as well take this. I need to keep in mind that I have to exile this at some point. And I believe that point is now, so let's do I actually have to play this now because I need a red untapped land for the Demon Vault. And this will enter as a green, so I have to do this first. I'm going to put this because if you select this, it enters as a on the left side, and I want this to be blue ideally. And exile, and we pass the turn with Demon Bolt, and 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 1 mana short of the combo next turn, which is the downside of casting Galvanic Iteration. But I think we're still going to be fine. He's likely going to go Goldspan into he should play this now. He has seen the Demon Vault and he failed. So he's stuck on 3 mana. If he uses the treasures in the first main phase, he actually gets 4 mana using Goldspan Dragon. And now he likely has no follow-up play. May sound weird, but Mono Red really is kind of a mid-rangey deck these days. So I'm not too worried about this matchup at all. Let's go for this to fall. I think I want to exile this and pass. That's a shame. I don't think he can realistically kill or disrupt me enough this turn to make a difference. That is a nice spell. Alright. I might draw Fading Hope of the Eureka moment, so I'm definitely going to do that. Let's do different spots, no reason not to. That is absolutely perfect. I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but I don't know how this deck actually got to diamond. I don't think Mono Red is a good deck, and this build seems very slow. So we're going to take 2 damage of this, but we're going to win the game fairly soonish. Yeah. It's not my fault you're playing a slow deck, man. Hand, library, exile, Kraken. Taking 2 more. Bounce this. I don't know why he's holding priority. Maybe that's just BM. He's roping me because he's tired of playing against Epiphany, I guess. But still, I don't think this is appropriate behavior. And it's not my fault. I mean, he would lose against control with this deck, no matter what the win con is. This card does not beat Hullbreaker Horror, for example. Yeah. He's just roping me for funsies. So this was not the matchup where Quandrix Apprentice was at its finest, but we got to see the ramp in action, and we actually managed to get to the combo 1 turn sooner than we would with any other deck. So yeah, there you have it. You can see I'm currently at a 71% win rate in Diamond, 1 victory from Mythic, and most of these wins are actually from best of 3, so game win rate is actually even higher. It's more around 75, 78%, something along these lines. Alright, so I'm going to pause this video before we jump into a best of 3, just because of the server maintenance announcement, and we'll figure out what's going on before we resume the streaming. Alright, see you in a minute.